we end some of the tragedies that many of our constituents have experienced in recent years.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it is a privilege to speak in this debate, particularly with some excellent speeches, and I wish Margaret all the best. But I also wish the Hopkins family too all the best, because I've seen the devastation that brain tumour cancer has. I lost also a close family friend, Matthew Fern, and I've seen the devastation on the Fern family. So it's horrible because it's a horrible progressive disease. I also congratulate my honourable friend for St Ives and the all-party group for its excellent report, which I've only just heard about and have just been reading during this debate. Brain tumour research is receiving growing support from the government, and this is welcome news. However, more can and should be done, as we've heard, because brain tumours are the biggest cancer killers of people under 40 in the UK. Yet most people only discover that they have a brain tumour when they turn up at A&E, like Margaret did. And this is why Brain Tumour Awareness Month is so important. Absolutely.
On that point, we're talking about research funding specifically, but she's absolutely right. Lots of sufferers will only find out they have a brain tumour at the point they have a significant medical event. But for many others, symptoms will have been present for many weeks, if not months. And does she agree with me that more could be done to raise awareness, both among health professionals, but among those potentially at risk, at what are the common signs and symptoms of a tumour?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to come on that, because the bad news doesn't stop at a late diagnosis. The effects of being diagnosed too late is devastating. And the bleak reality is that 12 months survival likelihood for someone diagnosed with a brain tumour in A&E is around 30%. We must do better than this for people diagnosed and their families. All the cancer charities recognise the seriousness of the situation, and I know the Health Secretary and his colleagues do too. But how do we improve this? How do we identify the signs earlier? I spoke in the debate on brain tumour research in 2016 when I praised the work of Professor Jeff Pilkington at the University of Portsmouth. In 2010, the university established a Centre of Excellence in conjunction with the charity Brain Tumour Research. Professor Pilkington is now retired, but the work he did made much progress. Right now, it's being carried on in other research centres funded by the charity and sadly, I don't think, no longer in Portsmouth. Historically, brain cancer has only received about 1% of the total research funding of all cancers. And as we've heard, this was increased with the announcement of a 65 million boost in 2018 from both the Department of Health and Cancer Research UK. But centres of excellence need that money because each brain tumour is unique and it needs each treatment needs a different treatment pathway. The biggest gaps in research seem to be childhood cancers. Brain tumours are the most common types of cancer in children. And the understandable desperation of parents, and as we've heard, of adults, of other patients too, has led to families being led into seeking treatments, often overseas. And that might not always be appropriate for that specific form of cancer, or even taking treatment that's unproven. Inevitably, how the NHS treats brain tumours will be an area where there's much pressure on more funding, because the history of healthcare in this country has always been one of improved diagnosis, leading to more demand for clinical facilities, and research opening more treatment pathways, and all of this costs money. In areas like proton beam therapy, while it's good we have the Christie Centre in Manchester and the UCLH Centre being added to it, it's very difficult for patients to travel to these centres, particularly if they've been disabled by a brain tumour. It is still an area where many people are having to seek private treatment. We need to develop both an academic and a medical pathway for people at the start of their careers to focus on the brain tumours work in universities and clinical settings, as my honourable friend from Mitcham Morden put very clearly in her amazing speech. We have some flagship research projects, as I've already mentioned, but their existence is not as secure as establishments working on other cancers. One of the things that could be done without costing a huge amount of money is support for early career workers to build up institutional knowledge in the NHS, in NICE and other guardians of healthcare. This will help sustain a higher pace of research and development and deployment of treatments. I'd like to end by thanking everyone for the work they're doing in this field, because we're at that point when every small improvement in diagnosis and treatment is making a big difference to the lives of people with brain cancers and their families. It comes back to that figure I quoted earlier about time of diagnosis. We have to shift it much further forward than the A&E department to give people support in dealing with that form of cancer, which is so often extremely aggressive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And